meaning no harm. Beats all you never saw. Been in trouble with the law since the day they was born. Straightening the curves, flattening the hills. Someday the mountain might get 'em, but the law never will. Making their way the only way they know how. That's just a little bit more than the law will allow. Just a good old boy, they wouldn't change if they could. Fighting the system like a true modern day Robin Hood.
How fantastic is that?
That's
that
phenomenal.
is one of the most creative things that I've seen. Okay. And I think the kicker to it all, aside from the whole thing being fantastic, is Hillary Clinton as Boss Hogg. And
Awesome.
the face that they impose is the one that she saw when the balloons were falling from the in the arena that time. Joe, that's fantastic. That's
I
excellent.
agree.
I'll tell you, man, there's some, that's why I think that's one of the reasons why the left hates X and free social media, because creative people can do creative things, and usually the left is the brunt of those jokes. Because remember though, we're dealing with an angry mob, and they can't stand the fact that even though we get angry, we still have the ability to laugh. We could still smile. Okay. And I think we have a lot more to be mad about in this country than they do, but we can laugh at them. They just get angry. They just want to kill everybody. All right. Whereas we could somebody just creatively made a Dukes of Hazzard clip. Joe Biden as Roscoe P. Coltrane.
Phenomenal.
Joe, how do you like that?
Dude, it's great. I saw it. I laughed. I got to be truthful with you, but we'll see what happens. We need the Duke boys.
Well, listen, like I said, we need to laugh a little bit because we're 2 weeks out from Trump getting shot. All right. And yeah, Joy Reid, he didn't get hit by shrapnel. He got hit by a bullet in the ear. You can't stage that. What do you do? Joe, here's the thing, Joe. Again, I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but here's one thing. If I'm going to stage something like that and I'm Donald Trump, I'm going to tell the guy, you go on that roof, just make sure you nick my ear. Like, it's ridiculous. And they're trying
person died, 2 wounded.
And plus his phone numbers went through the roof. Obviously, that's why they're trying to come up with some counter narrative, because his poll numbers went through the roof. There's a clip we're going to show later on of just how much he's beaten Kamala. All right. And we got a lot to say about that woman tonight. But here's the thing. To get serious for a second, and welcome to the front line with Joe and Joe, everybody. Joe Pasillo, Joe Rossinello. We're going way in the breach. Thursday nights, 9 o'clock Eastern time. We're going across social media, YouTube, X, Facebook, Rumble. So here's Jim Jordan. We're not going to play the whole thing, but stick with us, okay? We've got a lot of clips for you tonight. And share this video, please, if you don't mind. Share it wherever you see it. That would really help us out. Joe, here's Jim Jordan, and then I want some comments.
For an opening statement. July 13th was a terrible day for America. We all agree spirited debate, fighting for what you believe in, are part of what makes this country the greatest nation in the world. But the First Amendment and robust political debate are not consistent in any way with violence. What happened in Butler, Pennsylvania was a tragedy that took the life of a good man, Corey Compertor, leaving a wife without a husband and 2 daughters without a father. Others were injured, and of course, former President Trump, by the grace of God, survived the assassination attempt. There are a lot of unanswered questions about the security failures that day, questions about decisions made before the rally, questions about actions during the rally, and questions about statements made after the event concluded. Prior to the rally, why was the president's security detail denied requests for extra resources? Why weren't all the buildings secured? There were a finite number of buildings that needed to be secured. Why wasn't that done? Why was the president allowed to walk out on the stage when there was a suspicious person on the property? During the rally, what exactly happened between 6:09 and 6:14, those critical 5 minutes? We know from briefings from the director and the deputy director at the FBI and other information we've gathered that at 6:09, the shooter was identified on the roof. At 6:10, the counter sniper was notified. Counter sniper teams were notified. about the shooter. 6'11", the
So, Joe, I think our audience gets the idea. Okay, I don't care how much the left doesn't like Jim Jordan because Jim Jordan puts across facts. He did it while Trump was president, trying to defend Trump as best he could, and all the nonsense that was hurled at Donald Trump. Jordan's laying out the facts, and of course, he's going to be called a conspiracy theorist.
Here's the deal. We just gave you a taste. Go to a neutral channel like C-SPAN and listen to the conversations. Listen to the interviews of not only the head of the FBI, but also the former head of the Secret Service who resigned. And when you listen to those facts, there's only two ways to conclude the outcome. One, it is utter and absolute gross incompetence, like to the highest level. And this is not speaking as a Trump supporter. This is someone strictly listening to the testimony. Unbelievable incompetence. Or, and I'm not saying that this is the case, it was willful incompetence. It's one of the two, but it's so glaring, it's so in your face, and this is why there are conspiracy conversations going on, because it's unbelievably incompetent, like to the point where you're like, this is the ex-president. You identify a shooter or a potential suspicious person and you let him go on the stage? Well, just that in and of itself, Joe, is mind-blowing.
Well, we got to remember something too. You have people like Benny Thompson in the Congress a couple of months ago calling for Donald Trump's security detail to be withdrawn. So like to me, that was an indication of what they want. By the way, that's a death threat. See, this is where Republicans don't have any stones. Just to digress a second, he should have been thrown out of the House of Representatives for proposing that, because that's a death threat. The same way Schumer should have been thrown out of the Senate by the Senate for threatening the Supreme Court. But here's the thing. Benny Thompson laid it out there. He said, I think we should refuse him Secret Service detail. And then what happens? You don't think Secret Service got the message? You don't think that woman that just resigned got the message? They told them to stand down. They said that I heard it. I think it was today or yesterday. Somebody was supposed to be on the roof. They said you could just hop right on this roof. All right. You don't even need a ladder. The roof the guy was on. There was supposed to be somebody stationed up there. The law enforcement, I think it was the local law enforcement, said, we don't have to go up there. He's a former president of the United States, and even if he wasn't, he is the Republican nominee for president. You see what I mean, Joe? And then they call it conspiracy theory. Look, Jim Jordan could connect dots. You know what? Joe and Joe ain't too stupid. We could connect dots too. Bottom line is, Joe, I'm not on your side on this. I don't think it was negligence. I think it was deliberate.
Listen, when you listen to the facts, one can say, can someone be that incompetent? It's that bad. It's not. And again, don't take my word for it. Look for yourself. Go to testimony. Don't go to clips, C-SPAN. Listen to the conversations. You conclude for yourself. I'm not going to say a word. All I'm going to say, there's only two ways to look at it. It was either gross and utter incompetence. Joe, I would expect more out of the 87-year-old crossing guard at my kid's school, Bob, than what happened there. It was that bad. And I'm going to be truthful with you, or they willfully just turned a blind eye. And it is, and we're going to talk about this later. It's not over.
But you said on this show at the front line with Joe and Joe, please, wherever you're seeing this video, like, subscribe, share, help Joe and I out a little bit. Let's get our audience growing. Joe, you said before Tucker Carlson ever said, I'm sorry, I'm not just blowing smoke. Before Tucker Carlson ever said it, I remember we were doing a show in your basement in Jersey. All right. And I was shocked when you said it. You go, they're going to have to kill him. They're going to have to kill him. I think you said that in 2020. Because as soon as he announced that he was going to be running for president again, right around that time, you said they're going to kill him because they can't really get rid of him any other way. Look what they did for the last 4 years. Even though we didn't know at that time what they were going to subsequently do to him. You said it before anybody. And I said, well, what do you mean? He says, well, they can't have him to be president. You don't think they could take him out if they wanted to? You said it before Tucker Carlson. Guess what? That's why I agree with you, or I agreed with you then, or I was shocked then, but now I really agree with you because I think this was absolutely deliberate. I don't think there's any question about it. How is it? This is a guy who got 75 million votes, 80 million votes in the last election. He beat Joe Biden in the election. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what anybody says. And you don't give him Secret Service protection? You tell law enforcement to stand down and not be on a roof that's 150 yards away? Is that a joke, Joe?
It is. It's like, and I'll tell you what, if I was the family of that gentleman that got killed, I'd sue the government. I would be speaking to a lawyer right now.
I think my guess is that she probably is. And I've been praying, I'm sure you have too, for Corey Comparator's soul and for his family. I hope she sues the crap out of them.
Oh, I would. I would, because it's that bad.
$100 million out of
That's right. I hope so too.
And then I hope she gets $10 million to the Trump campaign.
Because it was really, unbelievable. Seriously. Unbelievable. And it's sad. And I'll tell you what, if I was Donald Trump right now, because he's very rich, I would hire my own security right now. I would not trust the Secret Service.
He may very well.
I would hire an ex-SEAL team, and I'd be like, guys, you're on till January.
I got a rub for you that I haven't heard, or I haven't heard. Maybe somebody else has been saying it. Joe, in the wake of Joe Biden, okay, bowing out, tell me what you think about this. If the Democrats are smart, and they're not because they're ideological, they're smart in other ways because they're kind of like evil genius. Because the crap they do is evil, but it's genius because nobody would ever think to do it, but they do. If RFK, if they decided, you know what, Kamala, and we're going to talk about Kamala, please don't go anywhere. Stick around because we got plenty to show you about her. If they got their heads on straight and realize that you're not going to get a candidate that's going to be a puppet, but somebody who'll represent at least 80% of your agenda, and RFK was the Democrat nominee, Joe, they try to take him out too. He wants to, the biggest reason why the Democrats don't want him and why the deep state doesn't want him, he's going to try to finally find out, but as president of the United States, he has the right to do it and the power to do it. He wants to know, he wants to see the files. He wants to see how his father and why and how his father and his uncle were killed. That's why they'd take him out too. I love your thoughts.
And that's where I'll be truthful with you. That's where people have to connect the dots. This isn't conspiracy. The reason why they don't want Donald Trump to be the president has nothing to do with democracy. It has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with them. Donald Trump does not play ball, and they can't have that, Joe.
Right.
And that should be a sign to people to tell them our government doesn't serve us. You see, that's where Vivek gets it. It can't be like we're going to pick and choose where we build and rebuild. Joe, in many respects, it has to be gutted. A lot of what's there has to be gutted. It's like a 1 in 15 professional football team. You have to gut it and build it up from the ground up, and they refuse to allow a man like Donald Trump to be the president, because every president, this includes George Bush, this includes Bill Clinton, this includes Papa Bush, this includes Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, who ran, what's her face, Nikki Haley, they're all controlled. They're all controlled, and they cannot have a person who isn't controlled, and RFK isn't, and neither is Donald Trump. Two very different men, doesn't matter. You can't be the president. And that is what people need to understand, because that's why we have to get our country back.
Well, hopefully, I mean, obviously that's going to take a lot of, I think, spiritual help. It wouldn't hurt. We brought up the other day. I mean, we feel Joe and I feel somewhat abandoned by the Trump-Vance ticket when it comes to the issue of abortion. We feel like they're trying to just play a middle ground. Okay. But I'm not happy about that. Joe's not happy about that. But here's the thing. I could fight on the abortion front myself, and Joe could fight himself. We could pray with people in front of abortion clinics. We could try to sway people to the pro-life position, and Merrick Garland won't be knocking down our door under a Trump administration. Okay. I could call out a school board loudly if I want to when they step out of line, and I won't be put on Merrick Garland's domestic terrorist watch list. Like these are things that are not going to happen under Donald Trump. So at the very least, okay, they're not going to fight for abortion. Roe versus Wade is overturned. Then we'll keep fighting for it. We'll keep fighting to have abortion, hopefully at some point in lifetime, maybe having abortion eradicated. But here's the thing. He's got to be doing something, Joe, and for the life of me, like I said, I mean, is it really, he really didn't do much about the deep state in the first term. Why is it that they're so afraid that he's going to do it in the second term? They're so afraid of him. They're shooting at him. Well, here's Alex Jones. And I think we should all listen to this for a second.
The globalists think you're weak. They think you're stupid. They think they can kill Trump. They just tried it in front of the world, and now they're bitching at Trump for complaining. How dare you complain, CNN says. They're not trying to get Trump. They got to get through Trump to get to you. And if they kill Trump, they think they've killed America. So we got to protect Trump. About to break it down right now, and CNN and the disgusting activity they're engaged in.
You can't wait. Can't wait. I don't care what Soletso says about a deal. He's going to kill Pop. That's it. That's the key for him.
Bureaucracy for more than 70 years is at the end of the line. They've got to kill Trump. They tried to kill him 10, 11 days ago. They failed. And now they are so incredibly desperate. They've removed Biden. They've got the Obama bureaucracy coming in with Holder picking who the VP is. But they know that Trump's going to win a landslide. So they're trying to sell Kamala right now as well. You know Biden couldn't win because nobody would buy that. But don't worry, she's going to win in a landslide. Ladies and gentlemen, with 104 days left of the election, they will pull out the stops. They've already said they're going to trigger a race war when he's president-elect during those 79 days between the time he's elected and he's sworn in January 2025. So this is such a critical time. People shouldn't be naive. They're trying to just glaze over the assassination attempt and try to move forward. So now is the time to be absolutely at maximum level, educated, informed, vocal, and to let the deep state know and the whole system know we're on your ass. We got your number.
Well, we're on your ass. We got your number. I mean, I think I agree with Alex Jones, Joe Orsinello, but I think they already know that. They know we're not going to be swayed. Like they know that I'm not. I know that Trump's going to do something, okay, to them that's really going to hurt them, politically speaking. Maybe it is abolish the Department of Education. I've been saying for the longest time now, Joe, that's a very big deal. Grooming children, the way they try to groom children through the Department of Education. They extort our tax money to send it to their pals at Harvard and Yale. The Department of Education's got to go. If he does that in the first week, like he said, I think they're in for it. I think he's going to start going one by one until such time. Now, Alex Jones is saying they're going to, if he's president-elect, they're going to try to take him out between Election Day and the inauguration. I mean, Alex Jones, pretty smart guy. He's predicting a lot of things. I'm hoping he's not right about that.
Well, I listened today to the news, and basically not mainstream, and the Secret Service has warned Trump to not do outdoor rallies.
Yeah, I heard that.
Obviously, that is something they don't want him to do because he gains a lot of benefit from it. But with that said, though, they are very risky. That's a fact from a security perspective. I will say this. They have shown their hand in the summer of 2020. They're willing to burn the whole entire country down. They're willing to do it. They're not going to allow him to be the president. Joe, I'm going to be honest with you. There are far too many people who have Trump derangement syndrome. They're completely illogical and they're completely off the hook. And many of those people believe he is the Antichrist. And they'll look you dead in the face, that you can't talk to them, you can't reason with them, nothing. And amongst that crowd, there is no doubt in my mind, there are men just like that young fella who shot Donald Trump. And there are more of them. And I don't know how you could protect someone like that. That's number one. Number two, if it's not them, it'll be the government. They're not just going to hand over power. They're not going to. They're terrified of Donald Trump because he is a threat to them, not to you, because they don't care about you. That's what people need to figure out. Donald Trump is not perfect, but ultimately, He's a million times better than what we have in store with Harris. This election is about two things. It's not Democrat, it's not Republican. It's a party that wants big government to take power away from you, and it's a party that wants to give you power back. It comes down to that. And the policies say so. Not me, the policies.
No,
you can
Joe,
say what you
listen.
want. You could call me what you want. But when you go X's and O's and you look at outcomes, that's the choice. And it's your choice to make. And ultimately, the loser will be you if it's Harris, if you're not wealthy.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, and by the way, this is fantastic, by the way, Joe. I just got to play this. Yeah, Joe, that stuff is just fantastic. Like I said, the stuff that they post online. But yeah, listen, Kamala, I don't think she's going to be their nominee. I think they're caught in. I think they're trapped in their own identity politics. So to give lip service to it, to say, "Hey, we tried it. We wanted to have the first black female president," and all that. But the power brokers are already trying to decide how they're going to maneuver her out and maneuver whoever they want in, and then basically jettison her and move on. Now, again, it's going to be a white guy because the Democrats can't find anybody else but white guys. Kamala Harris is not getting elected. It's just the way it is. They're talking about Josh Shapiro being on the ticket. Joe, I'm sorry. No matter what anybody says, I know that we're living in 2024. There's not going to be a Jew on the ticket. I firmly believe that there's not going to be. Forget about Josh Shapiro. Forget about Kamala Harris. Okay, it's going to be a white guy, a white, like American guy, non-Jewish. I put it like that. The question is how do they move her out of the way?
Well, here's the thing, and we're going to play a clip which breaks down her policies. Why don't we play the clip? I want people to see what they're basically up against, because if you look at policy for policy, her positions are absolutely horrendous. Get a little taste of them.
Is this the one from InfoWars?
Yeah. Yes, it's about a minute long.
Oh, okay. I'll play that one.
Inspiring and very capable. The more people get to know her, they're going to be particularly impressed by her ability.
The nonpartisan GovTrack has rated you as the most liberal senator.
I am prepared to get rid of the filibuster to pass a Green New Deal. There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking.
Would you ban offshore drilling?
Yes.
What is the solution for voters in the fossil fuel industry?
Giving the workers an ability to transition. We're not going to treat people who are undocumented cross borders criminals. That's correct.
Raise your hand if you think it should be a civil offense rather than a crime to cross the border without documentation.
Abolish ICE.
Yeah.
Is that a position you agree with?
And we need to probably think about starting from scratch.
Outdated, it is wrong-headed thinking to think that the only way you're going to get communities to be safe is to put more police officers on the street.
Would you support changing the dietary guidelines?
Yes.
The food pyramid. What people
yes.
To reduce red meat specifically.
Yes.
People who are convicted in prison, like the Boston Marathon bomber, on death row, people who are convicted of sexual assault, they should be able to vote?
I think we should have that conversation. We have to have a buyback program, and I support a mandatory buyback program.
So for people out there who like their insurance, they don't get to keep it?
Let's eliminate all of that. Let's move on. I am opposed to any policy that would deny any human being public health, period.
The more people get to know her, they're going to be particularly impressed by her ability.
The guy who bothers me the most in that whole thing is Bob Casey, because he's the disgrazia's son of his father was Governor Casey of Pennsylvania back in the day, and he was not given a platform, not given a chance to speak at the Democrat National Convention in 1992 because he was staunchly pro-life. His son is a disgraziad. So to have him talk, number one. But her, first of all, listen to her language, Joe, and then I'll throw it over to you. Oh, no, that's something we got to look at. Of course she agrees with that. She knows she can't do it. Abolish ICE, she knows she can't do it. That's something we're going to have to think about. Oh, I'm going to try to do that. It's all hot air. She's just pandering to the base. None of that stuff can she do. None of it. Joe, if they could do it, because that's what they tried to propose under Biden, they would have done it already.
Well, we're going to talk about the Democratic convention next, but I just want to make a couple comments. If you go policy for policy with Kamala Harris, she is, as that clip said, the most radical senator in the United States. That includes Bernie Sanders. That is an absolute fact. And that clip, that's her words on issues. People have to focus on the issues. That's number one. Number two, the only reason Joe Biden was taken out was because their numbers people, and I'm factoring in the 7 to 10 million people who came into the border who are going to vote, because that's the only reason why they came in. They factored in that he can't win, and that's why he's gone. It doesn't matter that he is losing it. He was losing it 2 years ago. They factored in all of the numbers, because that's what people do. That's what math people do. Trump has those numbers people too. That's how modern political campaigns are run. They basically said he can't win. He's got to go. Now they believe that Kamala Harris is within that margin, we'll call it of error, that she can win. That's why she's there. Now, I didn't think that they were going to go with her, but I believe Barack Obama just endorsed her, which I found to be interesting. All the big money people. I'm pretty sure I saw that. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But all the money people are endorsing her. So what I'm saying to myself is this: do they know something we don't? Do they know something we don't? Because what they're going to have to do, and here's the biggest issue that she has against her, because it's an issue that the American people cannot stomach. It's the border. Joe Biden, in his words, said, "You're in charge of the border." I already heard Axelrod on CNN deny that she was the border czar. Straight out lie.
No, that's been the talking point lately. That's been the talking point. The media has been fed their talking point. They said she was the border czar. They used those
out of his
words,
mouth.
and now they're all denying. Well, she was never really the border czar.
So
they got a lot of chutzpah.
Well, they just lie. And what I would challenge people who hear my voice right now, try to Google those clips of Joe Biden giving Kamala Harris that job. I bet you can't find them. So they have to fight that narrative because they know it's not a popular narrative with the American people. But what you're going to see in the coming months, and this is going to be a twofold test. One, it's going to test the heart and soul of America. And two, it's going to test just how powerful the media is, because Kamala Harris has a horrible record. We just played those clips. Kamala Harris does not have a likable personality. She's a horrible orator, rather. And frankly, I don't think she's a gifted politician. But what you're going to see is the press is going to try to paint her as the next coming of Jesus Christ. And if they succeed in that, and the people don't see through it, Kamala Harris will be the president. And that's sick.
I just think that they're going to have to cheat like they never cheated before to get her elected. I just think she's unlikely. Right? Look at this poll right here. Okay. This is Quinnipiac. This is Trump up 19 points in a general election poll. Now, again, I know it's early and everything else, but the thing is that woman.
Notice the ages.
What's that?
It's 18 to 34. That's
right. And that's going to scare the hell out of the Democrats, along with the fact that black people, along the fact that Hispanics are not going to vote for Kamala Harris the same way they voted, in the past. They're moving more towards Trump.
But what I want you to notice in that particular slide that you have up, right below it, CBS has her up by the same margin that Trump's up in Quinnipiac. So that what they're trying to do on mainstream media is discourage you from going out. She's winning. She's winning. They did the same thing with Hillary Clinton. The lies are starting already, and they're starting now. It is sick. But I'm going to tell you this. These people are not stupid. She would not be there if they didn't think that she could win. I thought they were going to put Hillary in because I just said to myself, there's no way she's a bad candidate. I saw the Washington Post, which is hardly a conservative paper, an op-ed where a liberal, I'm assuming it's a liberal, wrote in the op-ed. It's the Washington Post. You can look it up. They said, horrible candidate, horrible choice. Do they know something we don't? Remember, 7 to 10 million people came into this country. Not only are they going to be able to vote, but they also affect the census, which affects the amount of congressmen that certain parts of America get. It's going to skew the numbers in their favor, which skews policy. And that was all intentional, Joe Pasillo.
Well, Joe, I don't understand. Governors have power, like Abbott in Texas and other red state governors. Send the illegals to California or New Jersey or New York. Let them go vote in Jersey and New York. Let them go vote in California. Throw them out. If the federal government's not going to send them back across the border, throw them out of your state. DeSantis did it. He shipped them off to New York. Abbott started to do it. Ship them off to start rounding. You can't send them across the border. Send them to New Jersey. Send them to New York.
Here's the thing. And I listened to an interview with Ben Carson. It was an amazing interview. And that question was posed to him. Why don't they do it? Because they have an interest in not doing it. That's why.
Well, then, Joe, then they're scumbags too.
Well, no, because
scumbags too.
Well, that's Joe. What it is people. There's something to be gained. These people get rich. They get rich based upon their position. That has to end. There's too much money in the game because to me, it's a no-brainer. And that to me is the litmus test of any politician. And what Ben Carson noted in this particular conversation, in France, in the 70s, they allowed for mail-in ballots and they stopped it because it was rife with corruption. It allows 7 to 10 million people to vote. And any politician that does not immediately address that says to me something that it is fishy about you. You are part of the problem. They see Joe, they're benefiting personally. Guess who's not benefiting? The people. Right. They stole your country away. They stole your country away.
You understand my point. If the 10 million people who came across the border all went to California, when it comes to the election, who cares? I don't care. The Democrats are winning California anyway. It doesn't matter if they win by 10 million more.
I understand.
I just don't want them flipping Texas.
There's money and corporate money in states and government. And it's the same thing why you saw certain states cave on the abortion issue. Those people behind back doors strong arm governors, they strong arm senators. They say we'll pull out our jobs from yours. This is how the game works. You see, DeSantis showed to be above board on that. But a lot of these men and women, Christine Noem caved, Pence caved in Indiana. These are two conservative states. They caved. Right. And that's how it works. It's money, it's donors, it's leverage. And that is who controls the country. We live in an oligarchy. And any governor that does not address that, if you ask me, you're in the tank. I don't care. Call yourself a Republican. You're in the tank.
God help them.
But the thing is, God help us. People have to see through. You see, Joe, they have to see through it. This is not conspiracy. It's common sense. You have to see through it. And by the way, it could then affect you. It could one day work against you. This is not what a democracy is. That's a threat to democracy.
Well, listen, I agree with you. Here, I want this guy's take.
The party that's all about defending democracy rigs 2 primaries in a row in 2016 and 2020 against Bernie. Then in 2024, they roll with a corpse as their presidential candidate and forbid anybody from challenging the corpse. And then when they can no longer gaslight Americans about his condition, they toss him aside like he's a rotting vegetable and then proceed to rig their 3rd straight primary by nominating a candidate that no one was able or allowed to vote for. So that's what they mean by defending democracy, in case you haven't already noticed. They
straight up. If you want to, if you're a Democrat and you're saying, and you're, I mean, Democrats, I guess, are fine with this, because even the hardcore Democrats on to the left, I mean, I don't know how far left you could go, they wanted to vote for Bernie Sanders. The Democrat establishment took that away from him. Okay, took that away from them. They didn't want. I guarantee you, there's going to be fireworks at the Democrat National Convention. Guaranteed, there's going to be fireworks. Okay, because I don't personally think they're going to nominate her, Joe. I really don't. You say, what do they have up their sleeve? Unless they're ready with the structure in place and the apparatus in place and the people in place to outright, they're going to have to super duper cheat to get her elected. It was hard enough to get Biden elected because the guy hung out in his basement. And a lot of people, in the fairness in the Democrat Party, like Joe Biden. Okay, they don't like her. We played one clip. We're going to play another one in a little bit. They don't like her. If they don't have the ground game ready, I think they're going to replace her. With who? I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you what. I want to just address what that guy said. If you're a Democrat, how could that sit well with you? RFK's been talking about it. A lot of people have been talking about it. That's not a democracy. And what that man said is spot on. That's not a democracy. That's the oligarchs. That's the machine telling you who your representative is supposed to be. You know that there were people who challenged Joe Biden and they wouldn't allow it. They wouldn't allow them to challenge him. And then when they figure out, when he was exposed in the debate, and then he had a horrible, horrible speech in Nevada, they pulled him. He resigns, throw the man to the curb, and then they just replace him. How about this? There's also a question, can his money, the fundraising that he's done, can it legally be transferred to someone else?
No.
Trump
has to go to Kamala. Has to go to her.
That's another reason why potentially she has to be chosen, because I believe it's $300 million.
Yeah,
so
George Clooney raised, I think, $30 million himself with his Hollywood.
So that's
buddy.
what I'm saying. So there's a lot of things in play here, and money talks, and you know what walks. And ultimately, what happened also with Joe Biden, they say they took him out. In a sense, one could even view it as a soft coup. What do I mean by a soft coup? The donors stopped giving. Money moves the dial. The Democratic donors said, we're done. George Clooney, you just mentioned, he raised $30 million. He publicly said you have to take him out. When you raise $30 million yourself, you have a voice. Guess who doesn't have a voice? You, the listener, me. But George Clooney does. That's a country of equality. That's a country where all men are equal. That's a country where everyone has a vote, one vote. No, that's not. That's an oligarchy. It's an oligarchy when they tell you who your candidate is and you have no say in it. These are the people, as that gentleman just said, that this is not a democracy because Trump is destroying democracy. They're destroying democracy right in front of your face. And
Right.
your Trump derangement syndrome doesn't allow you to see it.
That's why shows
It's happening right in front of your face.
But Joe, in fairness to a lot of people just need to break away from mainstream media. They really do. And a lot of people are, as a matter of fact, the more they understand what's going on social media, the fact that there's a lot of different voices. And again, not because they're going to agree with Joe and Joe or many other people out there, but maybe a lot of people who are like independent, maybe nominally Democrat, they're still getting their news from CNN. They're still getting their news from MSNBC. That's all they're getting. But I think people are starting to realize, I'm hearing the same thing on all those channels. Let me go on X. That seems to be, and they'll hear a lot of different views, and then they would be more informed. The problem is a lot of people are just stuck in their ways, and they're just going to go hit that lever for the Democrat no matter what. But I still think in my heart of hearts that those same people are not going to vote for Kamala Harris. I firmly believe it. It's going to be the hardcore wing of the Democrat Party that are going to try to force and shame everybody. I can hear it now. If you don't vote for Kamala, especially if you're black, remember what Biden said. If you're thinking about voting for Trump and you're black, you ain't really black. They're going to do the same thing on steroids when it comes to her.
Well, they're going to up it because she's a woman. And they're going to say, you have an issue with women, you have an issue with black people, and how dare you not vote for her? How dare you? You see, that's going to be the line. That's why, to be honest with you, you have to look past the nonsense and look to X's and O's. We just listed the policies out of her own mouth. Those policies that she is for will destroy the middle class. Joe Biden has already took a big bite out of the middle class. Look at your checkbook before he was in office and look at your checkbook now. Look at how much you spent on fuel. Look at how much you spend on food. That is a direct result of his policies. Trump wasn't perfect. He ran up the debt. I get it. I'm not happy about that either. But I'm going to tell you this. At least Trump is moving away from globalism because globalism is anti-regular people. Don't believe me? Look at what's happening in Europe. Look at what happened in Canada. Look at New Zealand. Look at Australia. These are real-time examples. I'm not making this up. Broaden your horizons. Do your own research. Her policies will damage the middle class. If that's what you want, if that's what your Trump derangement syndrome brings you to, then guess what? You're not going to be able to afford food. You're not going to pay your bills, and your gas prices are going to go through the roof if you can even afford to have a car.
Listen, I said a million times on this show, and I'll say it again. When those same people cry, my attitude is going to be go on and cry in your coffee, but don't come bitching to me.
No, but
I don't want to hear it.
We're going to cry too. You see,
Joe, we're already crying, Joe. We get
no,
nothing.
I know.
We get nothing.
That's
so
the
I
difference.
understand what you're saying. Real quick, Joe. I understand what you're saying. Okay, but we're already crying. Okay, they got us involved in these global alliances. I think one of the reasons why they really hate Trump. We know one of the reasons they really hate Trump. One of the first acts he did as president when he got elected in 2016, he pulled us out of the Trans-Pacific Partnership. All right, that was a punch in the face to the environmentalist globalists. Okay, so we know that he's going to pull us out. He said in his speech at the RNC, goes climate change, it's a hoax, it's a hoax. He's saying it. So in that case, I know why they hate him. But Joe, here's the thing: I'm already crying, and you're already crying. I'm crying for a lot of reasons that the left gets away with what they want. So my attitude is I can't really cry anymore unless I'm like Mark Houck and I get arrested in front of.
The thing is, that's why people have to, and this was the message of Ben Carson. I think he was spot on. That's why people have to come together, because in essence, we're all going to sink. They're going to take more of your power away. They did that during COVID. While we're screaming at the other side, they're laughing because they divided the nation and they've divided and conquered you and me. People have to just, at this point, we have to just inform people. We're going to agree to disagree on a lot of things. We have to get our nation back. Because I'm telling you, we're 1 to 2 elections away for the story being over. The magic that once was America will be gone. What is that magic? Where someone could come here with nothing and make something of themselves. That is very difficult in many parts of the world. And that's what made this country special. Socialism and cultural communism takes that away. Look at Europe. Look at Russia. Look at other countries that embrace those ideologies from the past to the present. Again, look past your syndrome, the hatred that you have for this man. Just look at the policies. The policies will benefit you.
Well, look at this. Let's look at this.
Kamala Harris is in.
Actually, I'm sorry, Joe. We already
it's all right.
We already played that one.
Everything is in context. My mother she would give us a hard time sometimes, and she would say to us, I don't know what's wrong with you young people. You think you just fell out of a coconut tree? You exist in the context of all in which you live and what came before you.
Do you agree today that you were wrong to oppose busing in America then?
No,
do you agree?
I did not oppose busing in America. What I opposed is busing ordered by the Department of Education.
According to the book, Biden leaned over to Pete Buttigieg at the podium to his right. They barely knew each other, but Biden was looking for someone to share the moment with. Well, he said, that was some effing BS.
Kamala Harris will easily go down as the worst vice president in U.S. history. Her rise to the office has left a trail of mediocrity, confusion, and betrayal.
Well, the Klan was what we would call today a domestic terrorist group.
Why? Why would we call them domestic terrorist group?
Because they tried to use fear and force to change political environment.
And what was the motivation for the use of fear and force?
It was based on race and ethnicity.
Right. Are you aware of the perception of many about how the power and the discretion at ICE is being used to enforce the laws? We are going to the border. We've been to the border. So this whole thing about the border, we've been to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I don't understand the point that you're making. I've said I'm going to go to the border. And when are you going to the border, Vice President? The administration has asked. I'm not finished. I've said I'm going to the border.
The catastrophes that are causing people to leave right now, the hurricanes, the pandemic, the drought, and extreme food insecurity. And then there are the long-standing issues, the root causes, the lack of climate adaptation and climate resilience, the lack of good governance.
That Kamala Harris maintains an enemies list, journalists who make her mad. Harris, Politico reported, quote, tracks political players and reporters whom she thinks don't fully understand or appreciate her life experience.
That's about as much as I could take of Kamala. And I mean, yeah, that's who she's aptly described as word salad. She says ridiculous things, but I do want to say this, and I'm going to throw it over to you, Joe. I've said to you before on the show at the front line with Joe and Joe, I've said these are actors and actresses. Okay. She's one of them. I don't care. I don't care what anybody says as far as it's concerned. Trudeau, AOC, her, she reads her lines well. One of the things that's going around on the internet, and I want to throw this over to you along with that clip, okay? Because that's just ridiculous. She is a ridiculous person. But here's the thing. One of the lines that she repeats over and over again, and I'm paraphrasing, is we can look to the future without being unburdened by the past. Joe, that's straight out of Mao's Red Book.
I'm glad you brought that up. That's exactly right.
That's right. I want to be unburdened by the past. Right. That means not only the Constitution, not only America's founding, not only the way things are supposed to be like traditional morality, but also religion. Okay?
The Khmer Rouge did the same thing.
Absolutely.
And that's not conspiracy. That's absolute. That is what she's saying. She's saying the past needs to be forgotten. We're rewriting the history from this point forward. That is what she's saying.
Right.
People have to see through this. And again, if you're in the middle class, she's going to destroy you. But to your other point, she's easily controlled. Kamala Harris is there for one reason and one reason only. Two reasons. She fits a demographic that they're trying to get votes from. What are those two demographics? Single women, professional women, and African Americans. That is what the demographic that they feel they need to pull from. And the second reason why she is there is she's controlled. She is nothing more than a figurehead. That woman has an apparatus behind her. And once it, just like Joe Biden, let's all throw this. Let me throw this question at people. Who's running the country right now? Joe Biden has 6 months to go.
Ron Klain, Barack Obama.
Do people
Those are the guys that are
actually
basically
think
running the
that
country.
Joe Biden, who can't get through a 5-minute conversation, public conversation, do you actually think he's running the country? We don't need a president, but in the same sense, we do need a president. And that's why we cannot vote for Harris. When you vote for Harris, you're voting for the machine, and the machine does not stand for you, whether you're a Democrat or you're a Republican. And that's why they hate Donald Trump. And that's what people have to understand. I am not a MAGA guy, and there's many things about Donald Trump that I don't like. And there are many other people that, if to be honest with you, if I was to think about who I would rather have as the president, like Thomas Massie.
Yeah.
I would love to have Thomas Massie as the president. MIT graduate, man of the people, lives in the poorest county in Kentucky. Boom.
Right.
Let's vote for him. But Donald Trump's policies are infinitely better than hers. And it comes down to that. And if you don't want to accept that, I don't know what to tell you.
Listen,
because you don't belong to the country club.
Joe, how many times have you said this country starts to turn around when we experience real pain, and it's coming. If Trump doesn't get elected, and again, not because he'll give us some breathing room, okay? He'll give us a few more judges, okay? But if this woman gets elected, we're gonna feel some pain. She's going to be the lightning rod for every single radical. They tried to do it with Biden. I think they really weren't successful in a lot of the things they wanted to do. Remember, and then we're gonna call it a night. They wanted to make Puerto Rico a state, didn't happen because they knew it was unpopular. They wanted to make DC a state, didn't happen because they knew it was unpopular. That's why Kamala Harris is saying, "I'll do away with the filibuster." They want to expand the Supreme Court. None of that is happening because they're not getting 60 senators. And you need 60 senators. No, I'm sorry. I think you need 51 senators, a simple majority, to get rid of the filibuster. The problem, though, is they thought that they were, and I'll give credit to Kristen Sinema from my new state of Arizona. She held firm on that, and so did Joe Manchin. Okay. And they said, we're not voting for that. See, they're actually Americans. They're liberal Democrats, or no, Manchin's not a liberal Democrat. Kristen Sinema's a liberal Democrat, but they said, we're not going to do that. But they still know that those are unpopular positions. And they didn't get that done. They're just going to try to do it even more. That's why I think one of the things that's going to happen during the big cheat this time around is going to be trying to get them down ticket too. The Senate and the House also remains to be seen. Joe, I'll give you the final word before we go.
People have to just look at policies, compare the policies, turn off the noise, and be sober in your decision. Because I'm telling you right now, this woman was the most radical senator in the United States of America. She was not even popular in her own state. She came in third when she ran for president in her own state. They know her better than anyone else. And now the Democratic Party, who says that Donald Trump is anti-democracy, just handpicked your candidate for you. It doesn't get more anti-democracy than that.
I wish people would get it through their head. I really do. Maybe they will. Maybe they'll listen to the Front Line with Joe and Joe. Maybe they'll listen to a lot of other people out there. Maybe they'll share videos, like share this one. This I thought was a very good conversation. We played a lot of it. We gave you a lot of informative clips, not just funny ones. All right, to show you exactly what they're doing. They're trying to crown this woman. All right. So we'll see what happens with that. But if we don't raise our consciousness as Americans, then listen, we're going into the crapper. So we're going to keep, Joe and I are going to keep doing what we're doing. We're going to try. Yes, Teresa Martin, we're going to pray. We're going to pray. We're going to pray for our Lord to intercede on some level. Maybe he'll send his Blessed Mother like he did to Mexico and with Our Lady of Guadalupe and converted that entire nation, because that's what America needs, not just the Band-Aid. So anyway, thanks for joining us here at the Front Line with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, Joe Rossinello. Please, across social media, Rumble, X, Facebook, YouTube, please like, subscribe, share. Please share. And remember, until the next time, that our conversation is your conversation, and that conversation is going on everywhere.
never meaning no harm. Beats all you never saw, been in trouble with the law since the day they was born. Straightening the curves, flattening the hills. Someday the mountain might get them, but the law never will. Making their way the only way they know how. That's just a little bit more than the law will allow. Just a good old boy, they wouldn't change if they could.